always worked in
Okay.
data science and machine learning engineering, and before kind of ChatGPT boomed,
Understood.
right?
Understood.
And back then, it felt like a really hard sell to C-suite when it came to AI, data science, machine learning solutions. It felt like we had to constantly prove out the value to go and
Hmm.
build those types of things, right? But I think just the
Okay.
virality that caught on with tools like ChatGPT and Claude, and what we call mainstream AI, everyone's
Very true.
taking notice, and it is like top of mind for a lot of C-suite.
Hi, everybody. Those who are watching and listening, welcome back to my channel and my show experiences with Anish. So I think we've been doing good with the podcast show. Like I have had the pleasure of bringing a lot of people who are like more into AI. Since we are like focusing more on AI automation, AI agents specifically. Like I've had the chance of bringing a lot of people. And today, I think today is the first guest who's like purely into technical. Background, like he is a guy like who's like purely into technical, so we're gonna talk a lot in terms of technical, because thus far the guest whomever I have brought, right? Like everybody were like more of sort of low code, no code experts. Okay, so I think Reyhan is the first person like more into technical. So we're going to be discussing a lot in terms of like how AI is moving forward, like how can you get adapted and all those things. So firstly, before we getting it to our show, like thank you so much for accepting my invitation and being on my show. So how do you feel, Reyhan?
Yeah, man. Anish, thank you so much. I know we've been connected a
Yes.
little bit for like over LinkedIn. I think we
Yeah.
both do a good amount of content,
Very
and I've
true.
been
Very
following a
true.
little bit of your journey as well. And I think you're really into
Hmm.
kind of the no code agent
Yes.
building,
Yeah.
automation, AI on the no code place. So yeah, man, I'm really really pleased to be here and really excited to get it going.
Yeah, sure. Awesome. So, and I think it'll be good if you just give me a bit about yourself, background, like currently in terms of like
Yeah,
specifically in your AI space. I think that will have, much more context for the audience as well.
yeah, of course, of course. So currently, I work at Accenture. So I lead a
Okay.
bunch of our AI projects out of the Northeast in Accenture.
Hmm.
So what that means, I I develop a lot of AI solutions. I build a lot of custom things. I work on a lot of the cutting edge of what AI engineering is for our clients. And I really
Understood.
focus mainly on retail, and I focus on consumer goods. Those are my industries. And then
Okay.
outside of Accenture and work, I'm building a newsletter called Digestible AI, where I'm really looking to distill all my knowledge to anyone that's like really into AI. So it could be anything like knowledge workers, engineers, people that are like they want to get into the space but don't have the expertise yet. I want to teach people how to use AI and make the most of it. So that's kind of the mission I'm going for with that, and
All right.
that's been super fun to build.
Yes. I mean, like as you mentioned, like even I've been following your path. I think like as you've mentioned, like we've been connected for maybe a month or so, if I'm not wrong. So anything we even I love like
Maybe
all your
longer than
content.
that. Maybe
Yeah,
longer
I
than
think
that.
maybe longer than that. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe longer than that. So I think that's when I've had as I've told you. I think I've tried to get you on my podcast show like way before Christmas, if I'm not wrong. So I think all this
Yeah.
Christmas, New Year, and everything came up, and I think finally we've got the chance to get you on the show. So
Yeah.
thank you for that. Let's get straight into it, guys. So, since you are working in a big company, like we know Accenture is, big company, right? And even they are like focusing more on the CI solution, right? So, like, my first question to you is that, like, how are these big companies are looking at AI from your personal experience? Because you said that, you're leading a lot of, AI projects in your company, and also like you've built a lot of solutions. So obviously you would have had the chance to talk to businesses, because at the end of the day, every AI company can state that, we can do this, we can do XYZ, we can do a lot of stuff. But what really matters is that the value that it brings to the company and the businesses, right? So since you've had experience talking to businesses, like how do you think all these big companies are looking at AI from their personal experience? I mean, from your personal experience.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you a little bit of an anecdote. So before
Yeah,
like
sure.
coming into core, whatever AI is, whatever we call it these days, I have a pretty
Hmm.
extensive background in data science, right? So I've always worked in
Okay.
data science and machine learning engineering, and before kind of ChatGPT boomed,
Understood.
right?
Understood.
And back then, it felt like a really hard sell to C-suite when it came to AI, data science, machine learning solutions. It felt like we had to constantly prove out the value to go and
Hmm.
build those types of things, right? But I think just the
Okay.
virality that caught on with tools like ChatGPT and Claude, and what we call mainstream AI, everyone's
Very true.
taking notice, and it is like top of mind for a lot of C-suite.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's become a conversation of, hey, we don't want to get left behind, so we need to start implementing this right away, to either drive top line growth or cut costs in any way.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to get going. And I'll tell you from personal experience, there's a lot of pressure from the C-suite. So I,
Oh,
I interface with a lot of like director, VP level people also, and they constantly tell me like, hey, this is a huge priority. We have to understand what we're doing here, and we have to understand how to prove the value. So
okay.
that's how they're thinking about it. I think, like, long story short, it's top of mind for everyone right now, and it's
Okay.
a great space to be in and develop in. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, it's just going to get crazier and crazier, I think, as we move on and more kind of technologies unfold, and more patterns unfold within AI. So
Understood. This is something like very interesting because you mentioned that, there's a lot of pressure as well because people do think that, C-suite executives do think that they're going to be left out. So they wanted to do something and they wanted to get adapted,
mm,
right? But there's also on the other hand, like recently I've been going through a few of the reports. They still state that, it is not yet very clear of like what are the actual use cases of using this AI. I mean, when you look at this ground level, right? So people do, like in terms of businesses, right? There are like few reports out there, like, it states that when it comes to this, ground level of like what are the actual use cases, people do think that is still lacking. So like, what do you have to say about that?
honestly, like, I would somewhat disagree with that. I think
Okay.
now we've seen the use cases have sort of formalized across the space. So, like, if you think about the chatbot, right, ChatGPT, there's like very clear cut things you can do with it, right? So, and they all fall in like very broad buckets. So one is like content generation, right? That's one very
True.
clear case. To just generate text or
True.
images.
True.
Another one is summarization, right? Summarizing these long form types of documents. ChatGPT's
Mm-hmm.
things like that are very good, you know, for document summarization. So those are two
Understood.
like very high level buckets where you can think of. And really, how I think about it is like all of the use cases can roll up into like under those types of buckets. I'm probably missing one. I'm probably missing a couple here. Like, I know content generation is a key one, like self summarization. Um, and then, like, if you want to think about agents, right, going forward, 2024, 2025 now, that's
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
another use case where LLMs are powering agents to go and take action in an external environment. So I think the value, like, since 2023, it's definitely
Okay.
been proven, in my opinion. But
Mm-hmm.
I think from an adoption standpoint, the problem with these kinds of bigger companies is the agility that they can move with, right? When you
Okay.
think about like these very big Fortune 500 companies, everyone has an idea of how they want to use AI. But the
True.
problem for CIO and these VP level people is they don't want to go out and build like 100 custom things, and then their IT departments go have to they have to go maintain all of those solutions.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really more of a, like, from their standpoint, I think they're not so agile because there's no standard governance process in place because there's so many people in the company, right? If you think
Okay.
about like a
Understood.
10-person, 20-person, 30-person company, it
Mm-hmm.
becomes a lot more straightforward to go and adopt a lot of these tools because you can just build around API, or you can build it in a Zapier or make automation. Whereas, like, you have to get oodles of approval in bigger companies, and you have to prove the value to a
Very
lot of
true.
people, and
Very
then it
true.
becomes a scale and no scale decision, which takes like months, literally, to go and kick off a
Understood.
build. Yeah,
I think, with this, so okay, like one is like, as you mentioned, there's a lot of, agility because as you mentioned, there's, a lot of, hierarchies when it comes to large businesses, right? But I think there's also another aspect to it, which I do think, is valid because, uh, I think currently what businesses do think about AI is that it is like AI as in they equate it with just a chatbot and nothing else, like
yeah,
nothing more than
yeah,
that. Like they
yeah.
just, they think that every website have to have a chatbot and that's what is called AI implementation. But that's not the case, right? I think that's where a lot of this education and awareness have to come into place. So what do you say about that?
No, I mean, the core use case of what maybe mainstream AI was is like, yeah, chatbot. Okay, fine. You build kind of like a chat GPT type of solution into your own website. Maybe we augment it with some external knowledge with RAG, for example.
Mm-hmm.
But that's like, I guess, the core kind of use case. But what people sometimes are missing out on besides chatbot, right? You can
Okay.
build certain content generation tools, summarization tools,
Mm-hmm.
to go and prove value to enterprise or like in a team, right? So just beyond chatbot, we have those types of tools. I haven't even talked about like even like image and video generation, right? I think that stuff is super crazy,
Yes. Yes.
and the
Very
way
true. Very true.
that's gonna move in marketing, right? And we already have Gemini that's multimodal. There's
Mhm.
Sora that is probably gonna have an API in the future, so that becomes like a huge thing also for just like streaming content supply chains. And then not even to mention like again agents, right? Imagine
Very true.
waking up in a world where you are a developer and you have like three PRs waiting for your review because your agent said, "Hey, I think this is a good feature enhancement. Let me put up a PR for you." So
I mean, that's gonna be
that's kind of the
amazing.
future we're moving to. Yeah,
I don't think that's very far away as well. So hoping,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
very soon it comes. Okay. Okay. So I think, I've got a very good understanding of like how big business are thinking about, AI. So now is that, let's talk about individualism. Okay. Because,
Mm,
I've seen a lot of people talking about businesses, like how they can implement AI and all those things. Okay. But on the other hand, like people are a bit worried of like how are their jobs going to be
mhm.
affected? Is it going to be
Yep,
completely vanish, or is it going to be in a lot of
yep.
transformation, things like that? Okay. So now I wanted to ask you, like, what are all these big companies, like what sort of roles do you think big companies are offering in terms of AI? So is there any specific, because see, I don't want to take prompt engineering as a role, because I know that
Mhm,
prompt engineering, of course, it does require some sort of understanding, but I don't think that it's that in itself is actually a role, because that's
mhm.
my perspective. But you can give your perspective as well. So, like, what do you think are the role that all these big companies are giving in terms of AI?
Yeah. There's a couple of things like I know you had mentioned, when people get really sensitive around the fact of AI potentially taking a job, right?
Yeah.
And I think the way that we think about it, like at Accenture, and just like me in general, is like, how can we
Mm-hmm.
have AI like kind of as your assistant or as your co-pilot as a tool to go help you do your job better or save you time in doing like just things that take a long time. For example, right, if you're a copywriter or if you are a software engineer, you might
Mm-hmm.
be worried because AI is really good at coding, AI is also really good at writing. But one thing is that I'm not sure right now, like as it stands currently, that AI can kind of take that emotion for like a copywriter, right? Because copywriters inherently understand a brand, they understand how to evoke the emotion out of an audience, they understand how to write emails, write subject lines, things of that nature. But I think where AI comes in is like it's a really great ideation point, and you can really produce a lot of great ideas at scale, and then it's up to the person to go and refine that. So that's how I'm seeing the pattern unfold. Like AI is an assistant, and then like we have that person that does the final check or like iterates on top
Mm-hmm.
of that. Same thing with software engineering, right? People say all the time that, oh, like software engineering is dead, like coding is done for because of what Claude can do, what ChatGPT can do, what Gemini can do. But people don't
Mm-hmm.
understand what it takes to go and build out a product and scale a product.
Very true. Very
You're
true.
still going to need the system design. You're still going to need the reasoning behind like how do we fit these together? How do we build architecture to number one, drive productivity, save costs, save our computing. But I don't think AI can do that right now. They can generate like snippets of code. They can generate cool apps. So I think that's like the extent of it right now. But I
Mm-hmm.
think system design is a huge topic that it's still missing out on, and even just scalability of apps. Um, and I think when it comes to positions that like companies want to hire, and engineering, of course, is like a huge, huge hire or like
Okay.
huge point of
It is.
hire for
I
people.
mean, like,
Yeah,
it's just I think AI engineer is like an umbrella term. Like, I mean, it's a
yeah, yeah,
vague
yeah,
term.
yeah,
Like, is there
yeah.
any like, have you kind of drilled down to any specific term apart from this AI engineer? Is there
No,
anything in your
absolutely.
stuff?
I think you mentioned before, right? Prompt engineer, and I
Yeah.
think there was
Okay.
some hype around like that being a position before, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now I think people are realizing like you can't really go farther than like you can write good prompts. And it actually doesn't take much to write a good prompt or be good at prompting, in my opinion.
Very true.
But I think
Very true.
where the challenge lies is like building applications around it. So like yeah,
Mm-hmm.
AI engineer is like a very umbrella term, and how I think
Mm-hmm.
about that is just any engineer that can take AI products into production, people that know how to use the APIs, people that know how to, um, get the right outputs out of AI. So like in essence, like also prompt engineering, um, and people that know and want to build like full stack applications. That's what I see when it comes to AI engineer. And the skill sets beneath that would be like your typical Python,
Mm-hmm.
maybe like a little bit of SQL, like RAG, like understanding what a vector database is, like these types of things, like building agents would possibly be one in the future. Um, so that's one example of like AI engineer, but like like you said, it funnels down into a bunch of things, right? maybe that's
Yeah.
not one person that does all of that. Maybe we have a full stack engineer, we have an ML engineer, we have a
Mhm.
data scientist that is like that knows about more theoretical LLM work, training LLMs, tuning LLMs, things like that. Um,
Understood.
but I think that whole kind of AI augmented engineering presence is probably the adjacent position that a lot of companies are looking for right now. And
Okay.
I'll tell you something funny. I saw,
Sure.
I think maybe a week or two ago, I saw a posting for an AI agent. So they're like, only apply to this job if you're an AI agent, and we'll give you 10 or 15K a month or something. I don't know, something like that.
Wow. I mean, I
And
think even
imagine
I
that.
wanted to add. I mean, that's like very crazy. Like even I wanted to add something regarding this AI augmented work, right? So recently, I've had the chance to look at a video. It was from Satya Nadella. Okay, so what
Yeah.
did he was just saying that in future there might be this hiring process where people look at your expertise, which is your actual core values and your skill set, as you mentioned, be it Python, all those things. But
Mm,
below that, they're also like trying to look at their agents, like what sort of agents have they built so far, like their workflows. So it's like
mm.
it's like augmented. Like one is their actual core skill sets plus what are the workflows they've built thus far. So it's like having these combinations might and can get you good jobs. That's
Yeah.
like one
Yeah.
insight is what I think that I've recently got. So I think it's good people have start playing around with a lot of open source. One is they're free. They can they don't have to worry about data and all those things. They can start using that and start building a portfolio. I think that might be really helpful when they are trying to get into AI roles. Correct?
No, no, absolutely. I think it's kind of a similar trend as before, right? I think the people that are the most curious and the most hungry are going to always be employed, or always going to find something to do, or always going to make money, right?
Very true.
Um, it becomes like, I think that's really interesting. Like, oh, like what agents or automations have you built? That, what does that show behind a person, right? Like, are they hungry?
Exactly.
Do they have like the
Exactly.
will to build? It doesn't matter like how you built it. Really, it's more just like, hey, are you taking the initiative to go and do it? Because I think now, even for myself, um,
Mhm.
I've had a lot of success with AI coding copilots and just like ChatGPT itself.
Okay.
Like, I'm talking mainly outside of work. Like, it's very easy to go and build any kind of website or full stack app now. Whereas before, I really had no idea how to do it.
Okay. Understood.
Yeah.
Got it. I think that was very interesting. So now again, let's get into this individual. Okay, like what do you think is the right roadmap for any person? Let's break down into two things. One is from a technical perspective. The other one is from non-technical perspective. So like, what do you think
Yep.
is the roadmap that these two different major people can get or like learn AI? Like, what do you the like exact roadmap?
Yeah, I think in these two buckets, the common trend is you're gonna have to be AI augmented in some way. That's the only
I think
commonality, right?
that's yeah.
So even if you're coming from a non-technical lens, like even if you're like in marketing, in sales, in customer support, even in leadership,
Mm-hmm.
or you're a
Mm-hmm.
founder to some extent, like there's a lot of things that are out there with AI that you can
Okay.
learn and you can apply. So I'll start there, right? So the things that maybe these people want to learn is just like, okay, number one, getting into these tools, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. What can they
Mm-hmm.
do? What can't they do? Understand their capabilities. How do you interact with them? How do you prompt them? How do you elicit the best responses? That's
Understood.
probably the first thing.
Okay.
Once you kind of do that, you can say, okay, take it another level and say, let me go build a custom GPT. So custom GPTs, right? These are
Yes.
like within the
Totally.
ChatGPT interface, you can go build things with just typing. See what you can build with a custom GPT. See how that can drive value for you, either saving time, um, or just like getting more things done, or giving you more ideas.
Okay.
After you go and do that, I would recommend personally looking into these low code tools like Zapier, Make, N8N. Even Relevance is really good. I've been
Yeah.
messing with Relevance for a little while. Um,
Okay.
so I think understanding then how to stitch together these types of tools and workflows, understanding how they work together, and understanding like how you can derive like one output and then make that an input into another module or function, and then stitching together the whole pipeline and seeing like, okay, this, if I run this automation, this is the input, this is the output, this is what happens, and this is like why it's a value add for me. Um, so I think those are like the foundational things I would think about. So I missed out a lot. I mentioned ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini. I would even mess around with the video tools. It's like, and any, like the foundation is always like the AI tools, right? Then we go and build on top of those and say what kind of workflows or automation can we make. That's how I
Very true.
think for non-technical. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one thing to be added over there is like we've like as we mentioned earlier about prompt engineering, right? So there might not be like very high. I think currently there's like a lot of hype around prompt engineering,
Mm.
but I do really think when it comes to generating image and video, you really have to nail down your prompt engineering. Like if you
Yeah,
do not know
yeah.
how to prompt for, especially when it comes to generating videos and images, I don't think you're gonna get good results because I mean like I see a lot of these results from this mid-journey. Okay, like people who are like mid-journey
Mm.
experts, right? The way they
Mhm.
write down their prompt is like it's like super. Like we don't even understand like what sort of terms that they're using. It's like so
Yeah,
complex because generating content that's like very simple. We know exactly what we want, right? But when it comes to this image and videography, like we've got to know a lot of technicalities related to all this photography
yeah.
and all those things, right? So I think
It
that's where
becomes a
this
lot more
prompting is
abstract. Yeah,
very true, very
yeah,
true. Yeah, okay.
yeah.
And so talking about this low code slash no code tools, right? Uh, like how do you take this production into place? Because I mean, as they do offer all their cloud versions as well, so which is going to be already in production, right? So do you think is there anything else that we have to? Because recently I've been watching a video tutorial, okay, like how you can start building AI agents right from scratch, like right from prototype till production. Okay, so what was his recommendation was that you come up with a prototype, an idea, you use any sort of this low code slash low code tools to build your prototype and kind of test it out and convert the entire prototype into code using any sort of frameworks. We have crew AI, we have PyData, we have pydantic AI. I mean like we have a lot of these frameworks, right? So he's like kind of recommending to convert the entire low code application that I've built into the code and then put it in the cloud or like any other service. So do you like so do you have to say anything in that roadmap of building AI agents and putting into production?
Well, honestly, I think you took the words right out of my mouth. I, I had a conversation with someone a few months ago at a meetup
Okay.
in New York, and um, they'd asked me something like a very kind of similar question, right? Like, hey, I want to start building with like Zapier and Make. This is really cool. How do I go and prove
Mm-hmm.
the value? And like, is this going to be like a scaled thing? And
Very
what I
true.
told them was exactly that. Like, I think you go and use Zapier Make to go and do your POC. And I'm talking especially from like a non technical lens here, just FYI. Because I don't think these people, like respectfully, would have the skill set to go and build Crew AI, build like these very low level
Very true.
agentic pipelines with these frameworks. So I think you start there, right? You start with the no code. Be like, hey, this is really cool, um, and then you go take it to an engineering team and say, can we scale this? And then it would be up to them to go and, like you said, translate that into code, a code solution that has like versioning, like maintainability, deployed on cloud, like has an API potentially. So that's kind of the pipeline I would use too.
Understood. I mean that specific video and tutorial was like really amazing because so far like I would have played around with a lot of this no code slash low code tools to build out all these agents, but I've always had this sort of doubt is what I would say like on how should I get into this production.
Yep.
Like I've had because you
Yeah.
see I know a lot of frameworks exist when but that frameworks is going to be really helpful when you're a technical person. But if you're from a
Yeah.
non-technical person, like
Yeah.
if you do not understand this, even I can ask ChatGPT or Claude to generate the entire code for building an AI agent for Crew AI framework. But without
Sure.
understanding the actual underlying code out there, like it's not going to be any value, correct?
Sure.
So in that case, it's going to be like very
Yeah.
difficult when you want to get into production.
Yeah. So as someone that has like built with Crew AI and also has now built with relevance, I'm always going to opt for relevance before I start doing Crew AI stuff again. just because like what I was building, for example, like there were my like kind of like personal projects, and
Okay.
there's no point for me to go and like set up Crow AI projects for each one because I'm not really going to scale them. Like, and I don't need like a super like I don't need all of that those abstractions and custom builds for what I'm doing. I can easily achieve what I need to do with relevance, and I can also add tools, and I can also add Python code into the tools if I want in relevance.
Very true. Very true.
So that's what I'm seeing now. So I think every time now I go build an agent, I'm probably going to go use relevance, or I'm going to use N8N. I'm going to use that first before I go step into True AI because I think I have a project with True AI actually. Like I built kind of like a newsletter agent, so something to go and curate content for me, and I put a front end on top of it as well. And it was a really cool learning experience because it was basically full stack. Um, but it took a long time where I can maybe do the same thing in like 2 hours of relevance.
Very true, very. So is that, based on the project that you're building and based on the scalability that you're thinking, I think that's where you get to
Yeah,
have this threshold of like, deciding whether you want to get into the
yeah,
actual framework or,
yeah,
sort of use this no code slash low code tools, correct?
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Understood. Sure. Okay. I
yeah,
think, we've covered this job implications of AI as well. So that was, very good. Now, we know that your personal experience, like, you are heading a lot of this AI projects in your team, in your company as well, and you're talking to a lot of these people. So, like, what is the necessary for you to become a content creator on LinkedIn? Like, what do you have to say about that?
it's it's a lot of fun, honestly. I think
Okay.
it's just another way to connect with the community within AI and like within
Hmm.
like what's going on in the space. So
Hmm.
how I think of it is, I started the newsletter, and this
Okay.
is like a good way to grow the newsletter as well, but also
Hmm.
like I want to bring people along the journey with me, like as I'm learning myself. Like even me, I'm not 100%. Like I'm not like really the final form of AI expert you can talk to, and I don't think anyone is right now. But I think
Very true.
what's
Very
really
true.
interesting about like LinkedIn and doing content is just like having a broader purpose of just like touching more people. You know, like I deal with Fortune 500 companies on like that's my day job, so I want to do something
True.
more for the community where like I can actually give them value. Like for example, if you're a teacher or if you're like and someone that works in customer support and you saw like one of my tutorials or like whatever I put up on LinkedIn, like hey, I could potentially use that for X, Y, and Z, and that's like the kind of impact I want to make. Um,
Oh,
so
understood.
that's been the idea behind like content creation. Basically, just distilling my thoughts and
Hmm.
my experiences to the world because I think the world needs them. I think that goes for everyone. Like I think anyone can go and do it because I think everyone has a unique perspective they can offer.
Okay. So, how's your, newsletter? Like, what sort of, is there any specific strategy that you're using in terms of, growing your newsletter? Like, how is it going so far?
No, it's going good. We're almost at 3,000 subscribers at this point for
Oh, that's
digestible AI.
amazing.
So it's been pretty cool. Yeah.
Hmm.
And really the newsletter is just again another extension of my brain. So I work on it with one of my good friends, and we both have a
Okay.
lot of just like knowledge to distill. And again, really the target audience for that is what like knowledge workers, engineers that want to get better with AI, build with AI, be more productive with AI. So a lot of like I do cross pollinate a little bit with my personal content and my newsletter content, but I do
Hmm.
try and do different things with each one. So there's like a
Oh,
little bit of variability. Although like the journey it's been really good. Like I've never like okay, so since I guess before 2024, I never did content ever.
okay.
I didn't know how to create content. I didn't know how to write online, honestly.
Hmm.
And when I started Digestible AI in January 2024, it kind of forced me to do that stuff, and I ended up like really liking the stuff. So now I set aside time to make content every single week, and I put out content during the week, and it's been amazing. And the same thing with newsletter. Newsletter, we drop a newsletter 2 times a week.
Okay.
Again, distilling just like really, I wanted to abstract away long term from like the news aspect of it. Like, yeah, we covered a little bit of news and trends, but I really just want to get people into applying what I'm talking about and like how to be more productive with it for real. So that's why a lot of the newsletter is now tutorial based and not so much news based.
Understood. Got it. Sure. I think, before we end this, right, like I want to talk about freelancers.
Yeah.
Since, like, I know like you are into your, full-time day job, but since you're dealing purely with AI, right? So let's say I am a freelancer for an example, or let's say someone in my community is a freelancer
Mhm.
whose main work is that, their service includes they are,
Yep.
let's say, no code slash low code experts, and they're trying to implement all these services for other businesses, let's say small and
Yep.
medium sized businesses. All right.
Yep.
So
Yep.
like, how do you think all these people, like freelancers, actually start kind of, get into this freelancing in terms of AI augmented, work?
Yeah. You mean like how do they land contracts and gigs? Is that what you
Yeah,
mean?
yes, that's like one.
Yep.
And probably two is
Mhm.
like, yeah, I think that's the main focus because I'm pretty sure like they would have, by now figured out like what sort of tools that they have to learn, what sort of frameworks that they have to learn. So I think that part
Yeah.
have been
Yeah.
kind of cleared for them. So the biggest part is that because, as you mentioned that, uh, even like, big companies might be very difficult to convert. So like how are like small companies are going to be like, it's going to be like very difficult for them to make them
Yep.
understand like what is the actual value of, getting
I
all
see.
this AI augmented workflows and all that. So like, how do you think people can tackle that?
I see. So like this is actually a big space that's popping up, right? just agency work in general with AI, and then also on top of that, freelance. Like I think of freelance is just like a one man agency, right? That's how I think of it. And I think
Okay.
I'll talk a little bit about like getting leads and like how to actually go and qualify people, and then I can talk about like the value add you can bring to these like SMBs.
True. Sure.
Um, so lead generation for these agencies, I think it's much of the same as with any business. It would just be like, okay, you put up you like really you do really good content, for example. That's one pillar.
Mm-hmm.
You can do like
Okay.
cold emailing. You can run ads. Like that's I think
Okay.
how you kind of get leads into your funnel.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then periodically you can give them value in a newsletter like we do, or you can like point them to a portfolio, or you can book a free call and say like, hey, this is what I built, and like this is how we can prospect with them. And then when it comes to the value, right? I think the bigger companies are more aware of what's going on in the space, just because I, I think like they have Accenture in their ear, they have like Deloitte in their ear, talking about, hey, like
Very
this
true.
AI
Very
thing is
true.
coming. But
Mm-hmm.
the value you bring to like SMBs is, I think it's kind of process driven. It's the same in enterprise, except enterprise is just bigger scale. But a lot of these problems that we solve with AI, they have to be process driven. Like we can't just do like use AI for just like the sake of saying we used AI, right? So for example, if you're if you're like a law clerk that has to
Okay.
go through like hundreds of documents or hundreds of pages of documents every single day, there
Very true.
probably is an AI solution for you that and that like an agency or a freelance can easily build, like that business can also afford. That would be a very big value driver. And how do you quantify that value? It's probably in time. So for example, you people might spend 4 hours a day just like reading those documents, when you can maybe cut that down into 1 to 2. That's how you
Very
quantify the value, and then that's how you can start positioning yourself in like that space.
Okay, so I mean, like, it's that, instead of just randomly saying that we're going to be using, let's say, any sort of AI to get your work done, it's
Mhm.
like we have to have proper processes in place,
Absolutely,
which AI is going to be
absolutely,
just an augmented part, correct? Instead of just a solo
absolutely.
part, it's going to be just this augmented part, correct?
Absolutely. I think it's one module or one tool in the broader process. There's always going to be business process. How
True.
do we it's more of like, where does AI fit in this? And again, that
Mm-hmm.
goes back to summarization, text generation, video generation, like the core buckets. Where can that core bucket kind of fit in the process that we're talking about? And then how do we
Okay.
quantify the, money saved, like time saved, like money made, like these types of things.
Okay, understood. I think,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was a really good. We've got a lot of, insights. I just want to end this with one final question, which is like I
Yep.
ask this to every of my guests. Okay, so how does your tool stack look like currently? Like, or
I
AI tools or any.
love
I
it.
mean, like you've
I
also
love it. I
mentioned a
love
lot
it.
about. You've also mentioned a lot about relevance AI. So, like, what is your entire tool stack look like?
Man, oh man. I think it kind of depends on the context. So like,
Okay.
let me just talk about this in the context of like my personal work.
Okay.
My tool stack, ChatGPT is definitely in there. Claude is in there for a little bit of writing.
Hmm.
I've started to build the relevance in the last month, and I think that's probably going to be more in my tool stack as we go along. I do like to use Make as well, and
Hmm.
then for very kind of like mockups, I actually have a tool, or like UI mockups. I have a tool that I use by someone named Adam. It's called UX Pilot. Amazing tool. If people want to
Okay.
go and spin up like really quick
Sure.
front end mockups, and
It's
then I'll put
like,
that
what is
mockup.
it? It's UX markup.
Yeah,
Okay.
UX Pilot is a tool, and then it's for
Okay.
anyone that
UX
wants to spin
pilot.
up like a very quick image of a front end. And then I
Sure.
go and use that image, and then I put it into Bolt if I want to create like an app really quickly. So Bolt is also in my stack, and so is Cursor for my kind of IDE, like AI augmented IDE.
Hmm.
Uh, Currently, I think what I do want to try out next, though, I want to try the DeepSeek models in Cursor, see how that works. I haven't messed around with those new models yet, but I definitely want to do that. I haven't done a lot of open source stuff, to be honest, because I have a MacBook M2. I don't have a GPU. Like I have these little models like Llama 3.2, maybe what is it, like 2 or 3B on my computer, which
Hmm.
is it's fine. It's just not that great, but
I
it's
mean,
like cool to test out on with the Llama. Um,
okay.
so yeah, that's kind of my stack. I know I probably rattled off a bunch of tools there.
I mean, that's okay. Now, I think this one tool is kind of new to me, which is UX pilot. I mean, like, what is that? UX
Yeah,
pilot.
yeah, UX Pilot. Definitely check it out. It's by someone named Adam Farg. He's doing
Okay.
great work with the tool. So yeah, definitely check it out.
Sure. I think, I think this is something new. Apart from that, I think even I've used a lot of tools that I've just mentioned, right? I think everything was like amazing. Relevance AI. The only thing is, when it comes to relevance AI, the pricing, like what they've done recently, I think that's most people are like kind of, not happy with that because the basic pack had LinkedIn capabilities built in the
Mhm.
basic pack itself, but now they have moved it to the highest package. I think that's
Mm.
where people are a bit, worried about using this relevance AI. And apart from that,
Yeah.
I think even I built maybe around two workflows so far using Relevance AI. But yeah, even Relevance AI is good. Like, and my priority is currently N8N. I mean, like, I'm
Yeah.
a super
Okay.
fan of N8N, so that is like amazing.
Yeah. Awesome. I've like messed around a little bit with data, and I haven't gotten super deep into the weeds with it. But yeah,
Okay,
definitely also send me what you're working on. I'm curious on what that looks like
sure.
when you build these flows and
Sure.
agents.
Can I? And as you know, like so far, like these are the like biggest thing that I've built. So one is I've built an entire LinkedIn content system. So
Yeah.
this I
That's
think this is
amazing.
like recently I think I've posted, maybe you would have even noticed as well.
Yeah.
So that's like one thing I've done. And now I'm currently working on another agent, it's like ticket routing agent for small and medium sized businesses. So
Sweet.
I think that's something big that I'm planning on. We'll see like how does it go. So
Yeah.
hoping it
Yeah.
goes well.
No, the content stuff is super interesting because I'm like doing something a little bit similar with relevance. I'm
Okay.
trying to see, like, I'm still building it, honestly. I'm trying to see if I can do it.
Sure.
But
Even
and
I've
like
tried
if I can spit
actually.
out the right
I've
outputs. Yeah.
And so actually, I've tried the same workflow what I've built using N8 and using Relevance CI, and like I
Okay.
couldn't get the exact, sort of steps and processes in a Relevance CI. Maybe at that point of time, I was like very beginner, like I did not understand the platform. I think that might be one reason. But and then like since I got into N8 and like I've built it, but I've the very first workflow, this complex LinkedIn content workflow that I've tried was on Relevance, and it was a pretty
Cool.
good experience, what
Sweet.
I would say.
Sweet. Yeah. I
Yeah.
want to see maybe if we can like I can hook that up to like a Slack or a WhatsApp and just like type at it and then just like some webhook gets called and it's just like
Mhm.
done and like populated in my Notion. That'd be amazing.
Yeah. I mean that's going to be like I think my current workflow that what I've built for this LinkedIn is it's the same. It's that you can either give your drafted content or you can give a topic.
Mhm.
If it's a
Mhm.
topic, it goes to the web, be it Google search or
Yep.
Perplexity
Search.
AI.
Yep.
It gives you the content. And then what I've done is like using this no code. I think you would have very well know in Google AI Studio we can actually fine tune our model like this
Mm.
OpenAI, correct? So what
Yes.
I did is I've actually fine tuned my model on Google AI Studio. So after the content is being taken from the web, so that content is actually sent to my fine-tuned model. So that actually drafts the content
Yep.
on my tone. And as a second agent, it's kind of a quality check agent. Okay, so what it does is it actually has access to my database of my original LinkedIn content, and now it takes the generated content. It kind of compares with my original content which is on my database, and then gives out a report stating that like how far is it actually it's like how far is the relevance between the generated content and my current LinkedIn content, and gives
That's
this
awesome.
report.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it isn't good, it again sends back to my fine-tuned model to rewrite the content, and then
Mm.
finally it sends to my Slack. I then approve it, which then goes into Notion or directly into
Or just
LinkedIn. That's
awesome.
so. This
Yeah.
is the thing that I've built recently.
Yeah. That quality check one is pretty cool. I think I can imagine a world where you have um and maybe this is useful for you too, right? Say like you do Twitter content, you do like LinkedIn content. You can have like
Mhm.
some content agent, director agent, I guess, and then under those are like the sub agents where you have like the LinkedIn one and the Instagram,
Very true.
not Instagram, sorry, Twitter, the Twitter one. No, that's awesome. I think I like the fact that you also put your own posts in a database to also fact check that.
Very true.
Because what I'm thinking of doing is like I have a list of creators that I follow too that I like their content.
Okay.
I basically have like ended up scraping their post content and then like putting it
Mhm.
into like the relevance knowledge base and saying like, hey, formulate a post that sounds like this, for example. So
Understood. Understood. I
yeah,
was, I was like bit skeptical in terms of thinking too much about ethical terms. Like so, I'm
yeah,
like still skeptical on scraping other creators' content. So which is why like I've tried it on just my own content.
yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, sure. So I think with that we've come to the end, and it was like truly a great session because I think as I mentioned, this is the first session where I've had a lot of technical talk with an a technical expert guy, because so far like I have not got this chance to talk to
Yep.
a person who's like more into technical. So that's like really good. So is there anything that you would love to add as a last thought or something?
Um, no, man, I appreciate you having me on. I think this is a great chat. Looking forward maybe to doing more with you and Anish. And for
Sure.
people in the audience, if you want to check me out on LinkedIn, you can grab me on LinkedIn. I think Anish, you can link it down
Sure.
after the fact.
All
And
the
then also,
resources
yeah,
is
check out
going to be on
Noticeable
the
AI.
description.
We're doing amazing work for the community and just to distill our knowledge. So, and the newsletter is free. So would love everyone to go check that out. We do a lot
Yeah.
of work for it. We would be much appreciated.
Understand. And also like for all the people who are watching, like, I just wanted to tell you that this is like formal announcement. Like I've been trying to do that, but this is a formal announcement. So the thing is, I've actually planned to bring a lot of people, like, Rayhan, like other people as well, like, to actually bring them on to build something live. Okay, so let's say we're building any sort of AI agent using relevance AI, things like that. Okay, so and I've started planning and I've like just actually I've started reaching out to people as well. So soon I'm gonna be even bringing Rehan out there to build something on relevant CI or
Amazing.
any relevant CI. We can sort of build
Oh
something
yeah.
on live and just show it to people. Yeah, I'm just planning that. We'll see
Sweet.
like how it goes.
Sweet.
Yeah, so I
Awesome.
think with that we've come. So thank you so much, guys. So until then, take care. Bye.